Divide a line segment into equal parts without actually measuring it. Hey, I'm Tammy. I do math for coffee, and that's what we're doing today. It's called partitioning a line segment. I've figured out 3 different ways to do it, though. I'll show you all 3, and then you decide which one you like the best. What are the coordinates of point P that lies along directed line segment from C to D and partitions the segment into the ratio of 3 to 2? First of all, you just have to learn how to understand a question. Pretty jargon heavy. Let's start with a directed line segment from C to D. Well, C is the point -2, 2. That's right here. And D is the point 8, 7. There it is, up there. A directed line segment just means they're telling you it's starting at C and going to D, but it stops at D. It's not like a ray that would keep going. And partition means to divide. So we are going to partition this in such a way that we are comparing 3 parts to 2 parts, which means we have to take this line and divide it into 5 equal parts. And the point we're going to be looking for is the one that breaks it up. So there's 3 parts on one side and 2 parts on the other. The first way I like to do this is I actually have this on graph paper like you see here, and then I draw one horizontal line like right here. And then I count how many boxes that is. I just want to know how long this horizontal component is. And I know I have to break that up into 5 equal parts. So it's 10 units long divided by 5, so that gives me 2. Once I have those points, I just go up to the line. This is why you can do it on graph paper like this. Then I have points here, and I figure out which one's going to separate me 3 to 2. But there's 5 of them. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And so the point I'm looking for is this one. That's my point P. And the coordinates for that are 4, 5. Now, when you do coordinates, if you're using the graph paper, be real careful. Your coordinates, you have to go back to your axes. You can't use this horizontal line. I've done that before. Now let's do a different problem, and I'm going to show you how I would do it if I didn't have graph paper. A is -3, -2, and another point 6, 1. I'm going to do directed line segment AB such it partitions it into the ratio of 2 to 1. Okay, so I have to take whatever this line is and divide it into 3 equal parts. Well, without graph paper, I will do my X's and Y's separately. So I make myself a little helping number line for my X's first. It's starting at A and going to B, and I look only at the X coordinates. The beginning coordinate for this one is -3, and the ending coordinate was 6. So then I figure out, well, what's the distance? How far apart are they? Most people can eyeball that or do it in their head, but the math for this would be to subtract the -3 from the 6, and you end up with 9. There's a double negative here, but just imagine you're walking from -3 to 6. You would go 9 steps. Now take that 9 and divide it into 3 equal parts, because our ratio is 2 to 1, that's 3 parts. So that would mean each one has to be 3 long. So the first point would be here. I know I would have to add 3 to -3, and that would land me at 0. This point, I'd add 3 again, and that would be 0 plus 3, which is 3. I know my ratio is 2 to 1. I have 2 parts here, 1 part there. This is the X coordinate of my answer. Now do the same thing for the Y's. The Y starts at -2 and goes to 1. That distance from -2 to 1, well, the math is to subtract the -2 from the 1, you get 3, but you probably would have figured that out in your head. So that means I got to take 3 and divide it by 3 parts, which is 1. So my first point, I have to add 1 to the -2, so this would be a -1. I'm going to add 1 again to get the second point. So that would be 0. The 2 to 1 ratio, 2 parts to 1, then that means this is the Y coordinate. And the answer for this one, that point is 3, 0. It's going to seem like this is more complicated, but trust me, there's a reason. When you look at this ratio is 2 to 5. You add that together, that means there's 7 parts total. So whatever we come up with for these little helping lines, we've got to divide by 7. And when I look at this, you wouldn't necessarily know to look for this ahead of time. I'm just pointing it out to you. If you look at your X's, you're starting at 2 and going to 4. That is moving 2 units. That means you're going to have to divide those 2 units into 7 parts, which means you are bringing in fractions. And you can handle that however you want to handle that. But there is a formula for doing this, and I wanted you to see it. And it's scary. But it kind of works pretty slick once you figure out what all the parts are. So we're going to do some color coding here. X1, Y1 is going to be the first point. And the x2, y2 will be the second point. That'll be purple. The a and the b are the ratio, a to b. Let's fill in some numbers here. P equals, all this stuff is filled in. I just did it all at one spot. I also left off the outside parentheses because, for real, there's enough parentheses here. But what I want to point out is when you know how to look at this formula, what you're actually got here is an ordered pair. This first piece is going to be your x, and this second piece is going to be your y. And this is all related to the stuff we already did. They're just doing it all in one step. So let's do the math. And there's your fraction popping up. 2 over 7 times 2 plus this 2. It's going to work out nice over here. You see how 2 7ths is being multiplied times the 7? Those 7s will cancel out. Let's finish this out. 2 has to be 14 over 7 if I'm going to get a common denominator. And this, because the 7s cancel, just turns into a 2. So our answer ends up being 18 over 7 and 3. It's just a plug and chug. If you like it, it's there. You should at least know that it exists so that if you end up getting one of these problems that is crappy looking, you can go grab this formula and it'll make the math easier for you. You need to see more examples of how to do this without the formula, but the ways I showed you before, check out this video. See you guys. Bye.